Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Northampton Neighbors Speaker Series. My name is Ann Bauer. I am with Northampton Neighbors, the Speaker Series Committee, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Northampton Neighbors first, some logistics, and then I'll introduce our speaker, James Lowenthal. Northampton Neighbors launched 5 years ago to help Northamptonites who are 55 plus to stay in our own homes. We are part of an international movement of villages, as we are called. Our group, Northampton Neighbors, now has about 1,500 members. We provide many services, volunteer activities, and other ways to connect, including our interest groups, Mix and Mingle, and a number of committees, including, of course, the Speaker Committee, which went to Zoom with the pandemic, and now we are offering hybrid. We have an audience here in the Senior Center, and then we have many of you who are online. We want to welcome you to all of these events and would love to have you volunteer and donate. You saw how to contact us at the beginning. And I just want to mention again, we are free. Everyone can join us. Okay, on to our presentation. Let me say a few words of introduction about our star attraction. Get it, star attraction? Okay, thank you. James is a real expert on the topic of the impact of our ever-increasing light at night. This nighttime light is affecting our community, our health, and impacts our wildlife and environment. James will talk about this as well as let us know some activities that are being done to reclaim the nighttime. He's a professor of astronomy at Smith College. He studies the evolution of galaxies, so watch out. He's a big thinker. And he leads a couple of local advocacy groups, such as Northampton City Lights and Massachusetts Dark Sky. He chairs the Light Pollution Subcommittee for the Protection of Astronomy and the Space Environment. He is one of our Northampton neighbors. So let's welcome James.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, everybody else, for helping organize this, and thank you all for coming. So nice to see you all here. Lots of friends and familiar faces and some new acquaintances as well. My title here, it's nighttime, it's supposed to be dark. Here's the bottom line. We often talk about darkness as if it's a bad thing. And the bottom line is that we actually need darkness. Darkness is actually a good thing. It's in fact essential for our health and every living creature on the earth. What we see here is the view of the Milky Way from the dark skies of the White Mountains in New Hampshire. The Milky Way that humans have seen for tens or hundreds of thousands of years, thousands of generations of people have talked about it, studied it, looked at it, admired it, been inspired by it, connected to it. The Seneca people who lived near here saw it as a pathway between our worldly existence and the afterlife, and the stars were the stepping stones to get there. But from Northampton, you can't really see it very well, can you? This is from just a mile away from here, on the top of what we call Sunset Hill, and that's the view overhead. You can just barely make out, there's maybe a hint of Milky Way there. It's practically invisible. If you look the other way, turn your head around at Hospital Hill, you see one of the reasons. There's the county jail. Blasting lights out, you can see that from outer space. And in fact, the neighbors at the new Habitat for Humanity, the new 3 Habitat houses that are being constructed have this for a view at night. It doesn't have to be that way. Here is a prison in southern Vermont that is so dark that one of the premier observing sites in the world still happens less than 10 miles away, Stellafane, where hundreds of people, thousands, congregate every August to compare notes on their telescopes in the night sky. And it's cheek by jowl with that prison. You would never know it. The lights have been done so carefully, so thoughtfully. It's totally possible to do it right, to get the light you need for safety or security without that kind of light pollution. Here is the view of the Milky Way from another really dark site from Chaco Canyon in Mexico, considered the ancestral home of the ancestral of today's Pueblo people, as well as Diné. Here in Northampton, 100 years ago, one of the few streetlights was that one right there. This is the intersection right at the edge of State Street, Elm Street. This is Smith College on the left. There's College Hall on the left. You're looking towards Williamsburg, and this is before pavement, before cars. There are just some trolley tracks up the middle of the road. Here's what that looks like today, of course. It looks like daylight. Here's a view of Forbes Library, and today, lighting up the sky with these globe lights. Here's the current the bank building at the main intersection of King and Main, and here it is today. You're blasted by lights in every direction. Here is Calvin Coolidge being celebrated outside City Hall. There's City Hall today. Here's a parade in Main Street. If those people waited until dark fell, they would look up and see the Milky Way. But if you try that tonight, forget about it. Who would even know there was a Milky Way if you were walking around in that ocean of light on Main Street? Where does all this light come from? Well, it comes from a bowling alley. It comes from this parking lot, just off of right here. This is next across the street on Conn Street. It comes from our own parking garage, including all night long on the top, even when nobody's there. It includes that parking lot and this one and that building and the other building. There's just all over the place. Here's the Catholic Church on King Street. Now, this goes back a long way. Here's one of the first street lights in America. In Baltimore from 200 years ago, but it was for a gas lamp. It had basically a fancy bright candle in it, but nowhere near as bright as the things we put in that same fixture today. So those fixtures look really nice and old-fashioned, but we stick in them now lights that are much too bright for that design. This is just around the corner, and you know if you've been there at night during Summer on Strong, the lovely outdoor seating, you have to suffer with those lights poking you in the eye. You can see that guy there. He's got a headache from the lights, and he's trying to shield his eyes from the bright glare. The restaurant owners are not happy about this either. And every time I go there, I think, oh, this could be so beautiful, so inviting if they would just get the lights right. Here's the roundabout at Damon Road. There's the moon for comparison. Here's the light that got installed at the Damon Road roundabout. It's 500 times brighter than that moonlight. How much brighter does it need to be? This is the Roundhouse parking lot before the redo. Does it need to be that bright? It also probably happens at a house near you. Here is a house in Northampton that has old-fashioned carriage-style, ye olde brass and glass candle-like lanterns outside the doorway. But what's in them is really bright lights, so bright that you're blinded. I go by here every night and I'm blinded. I can't see the sidewalk because there's too much light of the wrong kind. Here's a neighbor of mine in Northampton. The only thing you can see here is the light itself poking you in the eye. You can't see the walkway that it was intended to illuminate. It can be done perfectly right. Here's another neighbor of mine who thought about it carefully and had lights installed that don't shine up into the sky or into your eyes. They shine down to the ground. They illuminate the pathway perfectly. It's mellow, it's a nice color. Blue light is much harder on your eyes. There's very minimal blue light here. The brightness is just right. This is a perfect way of doing it. It can be done. It's not that hard. Okay, let me just summarize what we just said. What is light pollution? We saw examples of it. Light pollution is light that is too bright. It's excessive. It's more than you need. It's light that's poorly aimed. It's going up in the sky or into your eyes instead of down on the ground. It's light that maybe shines on a neighboring property when it wasn't intended to. And it's light that is perhaps on all night long, like this light here in the parking lot behind Thorns Marketplace. Why is that a problem? Well, this is my house, and there's a street light there right outside my house before a shield was added. Why is this a problem? There are several reasons, 5 main reasons. It's bad for your health. It's bad for safety. It doesn't actually help if the light's poking you in the eye. It's a waste of money and energy. It ruins the view of the night sky, and it's bad for wildlife. Let's look a little bit closer at each of those. Human health. How could something as innocuous and benign and important as light be bad for your health? It turns out it is directly linked to elevated rates of serious human diseases, like the ones listed here. Here's just a smattering of the volumes of research that has been done, especially in the last 20 years about this. 100,000 subjects in the Harvard Nurse study. The level of confidence is very, very high that there is a link between outdoor light and human health, and it's a negative link. And it's not just the Harvard study, it's been done in Spain, it's been done in South Korea, all over the place. How could this be? How could light elevate a rate of cancer? There actually is a mechanism that's been identified. Your eye is hardwired, it's programmed to look for the sun going down. When the sun goes down, the amount of blue light drops dramatically. And there's a special sensor in your eye that is looking just for that. It's not for vision, it's just sensing the amount of blue light. When it senses that that's happened, it sends a signal to the brain, and it says, start producing melatonin. Melatonin is a super important hormone that sets your whole body clock. It cascades through your body. I'm simplifying a little bit, but not too much. It cascades through your body and resets all of your functions, your respiration, your wakefulness, digestion, everything. And it's also a powerful cancer suppressant. So it makes sense. If we suppress production of melatonin, we enable cancer. So the light doesn't cause cancer, but too much light stops your body from being able to fight cancer. We have a new problem. In the old days, when the Seneca people and all of our ancestors were looking up at the Milky Way, maybe they were clustered around the fire. For countless generations, fire or candlelight was our main source of light. These 3 pictures here show a spectrum, in other words, how much of each color of light is produced. And you see down at the bottom, it's a little hard, the words are obscuring so much, but well, if I stop talking, maybe it will. No, it doesn't work, okay. The bottom picture shows that firelight has almost no blue light, and it doesn't suppress melatonin, therefore. The middle picture is an old-fashioned incandescent bulb, the kind that are going to be no longer available shortly. Also practically no blue light. But new LEDs, lots of blue light. And that's not to say that all LEDs are like that. They might all be like that inside the bulb. The bulb can be treated so that it minimizes the amount of blue light. But there are many, many, many LEDs. There's been a huge tidal wave of blue light sweeping around the world that is a direct hit to your eye's sensitivity, looking for that blue light and to turn melatonin production on. This is such a serious problem that the American Medical Association in 2016 came out with this report saying, minimize, minimize, minimize the amount of blue light. Be careful with LEDs outside. Do not use any LEDs that are bluer than 3000 K. That's the number that we use for color. The higher the number, the more blue. So 4000 is too blue, 3000 is an absolute maximum. Better would be 2700 or 2200. You might ask, well, for the last 50 years, we've had street lights that were this sort of orange, pink, high-pressure sodium lights. What color are those? Well, that was a color of about 2000. And now suddenly we've got LEDs with 4000, 5000. Amherst put in 4000 K LEDs. It's much too blue. And there's this problem of where the light goes. And this picture shows a street light on the far left side shining down but also out. And there's a person standing on the right and a building on the far right. The only useful light from the street light is the yellow light coming down. But there's lots more light coming out of the street light because it's not properly shielded against glare. That person is being poked in the eyes by direct glare. It should be, basically the light should be in a can facing down, but it's not, it's too exposed. It's even shining into that building, which we would call a light trespass, and it's even shining directly up into the sky, which is a complete waste. It benefits nobody. Here's another picture showing the same thing. The building in the middle has two lights on it. A light on the left that's not shielded against glare. It's shining all over the place, up into the sky, into the neighbors. And a light on the right that is properly shielded. It's shining down only, and the neighbors can sleep. We all know what the problem with glare is. We've all been in a car faced with a bright light in front of us and been temporarily blinded. If only you could eliminate that glare, you would see, oh, there's a pedestrian right there. This has been known for decades. Back in the 70s, people did studies. How far down the road can you see with glare of an oncoming car's headlights or without glare? You can see 700, 800 feet without the oncoming car, but only 200 or 300 feet with the oncoming car. So it's a dramatic reduction in our ability to see when there is glare. Now, we might not be able to do much about car headlights. They're always useful as long as the car is driving. But street lights, we could do something about. Those do not have to produce glare. Here's what the Federal Highway Administration says. Disability glare, the kind of glare that temporarily blinds you, is one of the most important elements to control. It affects your ability to see, particularly for older drivers. Older eyes are less transparent, and the light that comes into your eyes is more likely to scatter around and ruin your vision, not help it. So whenever there's glare, whenever there's a bright spot of light coming in your eye, it's going to scatter a little bit in your eye and cause a sort of general glow that is reducing your visibility, not helping it. Here's a plot summarizing what I just showed. It shows the ability to resist glare as a function of age. And you see that the older the eye gets, heading towards 60 and beyond on the right side, the less tolerant of glare you are. Well, here's the scene outside my house. Is light always a pure benefit to society? Well, this is the scene of the crime. This is where my car was vandalized under that streetlight, not once but twice. It's a Prius. It has the catalytic converter that's got the desirable metals, and there was a theft circle going around town. And in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the morning, they would find a Prius of the right vintage like mine, quickly jack it up, cut the catalytic converter out, and be gone in a matter of minutes. And twice this happened right here, directly under the streetlight. And I know 2 other people in town, same thing. Their Prius right outside, right under the streetlight. The streetlight probably helped them see what they were doing. It doesn't, streetlights do not deter crime, and porch lights do not deter crime. In fact, if your backyard has a light like this, it might be doing more harm than good. If your goal is to try to see somebody who's maybe got bad intentions, it would just be so much better if you could somehow block that view with your hand, like this. Oh, you can't even see it because it's blocked by the words. What's that? Oh, you can see it on, it's a little bit, yeah, you maybe get a better view of the screen over here. I'm afraid is there any way to Nina, to make the closed caption a little bit smaller?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll describe to you, and then we can show it later if you want. There's a person standing there in the gate, and you can see the person when you block the light with your hand. The point is the person is in both pictures. You just can't see him in the first picture because of the glare. Light pollution is a pure waste of energy. If we're sending light up into space, the astronauts look down and see the city of Northampton plain as day, and the highways connecting Northampton to Springfield to Boston to New York. The whole of the United States, the whole of the world is glowing with wasted light. All that light that they can see, the astronauts, is shining up into space. We're paying for that light. We're burning fossil fuels to produce that light. It's on the order of tens of billions of dollars a year. It says $3 billion a year, but that estimate has now been revised up dramatically. It's probably more like $50 billion a year in the United States alone. It's certainly millions and millions of dollars in Massachusetts alone, wasted purely by lighting directly into the sky. Light pollution is a disaster for animals, like this screech owl perched on a tree on the Smith College campus. Its habitat is the darkness. You've all heard about habitat destruction. When we illuminate the night with artificial light, we destroy the habitat of the night. All living creatures need darkness at night to thrive. Like this bat, like this hardworking opossum mother crossing Crescent Street, like this fox in my backyard. Light pollution affects all of their major functions, their reproduction, their ability to find food, their migration. The entire ecosystem is affected negatively by light pollution. 80% of migrating birds migrate at night, many of them using the stars to navigate. What happens if they can't see the stars? Maybe they'll wind up like this vireo that died on the streets of Northampton. All of these are photographed within a mile of my house. That dead bird might have been one of 100 million to 1 billion bird deaths every year due to light pollution. In the presence of light pollution, migrating birds who fly mostly at night, so in May and October, any night that you step outside, there is a river of birds migrating high overhead, and then they come down and forage during the day, and then they take to the wing again at night. They get confused, disoriented, distracted by bright lights of cities. And they can circle and circle until they die of exhaustion or crash into buildings. So 100 million to 1 billion a year. Salmon affected negatively by light pollution. The light going into the water acts as a barrier. This is just a short list of some of the institutes devoted to studying the negative effects of light pollution on living creatures, including my colleague Mary Harrington here at Smith. Everybody's favorite insects, fireflies, devastated by light pollution. There are species of fireflies facing extinction just because of light pollution. This is Elwell Island in the middle of the Connecticut River on a nice warm July a couple of years ago, seen from the rail trail bridge. Thousands upon thousands of fireflies flitting around. But as soon as you turn the lights on, they go away. The lights in your backyard send the fireflies away. And my colleague Avalon Owens at Harvard, formerly of Tufts, reminds us in this paper that it's not just the light going up, it's also the light going down. The animals don't want any artificial light at night. It does not help them. They don't want it. This is a table summarizing the effects. Can you read this? No, I'm just kidding. Summarizing the effects on dozens of different species of insects, of dozens of different ways that artificial light at night negatively affects multiple species in one of Avalon Owens' papers. Some researchers in Switzerland a few years ago studied the effect of artificial light at night on pollinating insects. And when we think of pollinating insects, we often think of a monarch butterfly like this, but in fact, most pollination happens at night from nighttime insects. It turns out that in the presence of artificial light at night, the number of visits by pollinating insects goes down by more than half. It's a devastating effect. Here in Northampton, in Pulaski Park, beautifully redone park, great deal of public input, lots of back and forth with the designers, charrettes, workshops. I think a beautiful job with the park, including the design of a pollinating garden installed by volunteers of the growing Western Massachusetts Pollinators Network. So by day, we attract pollinating insects. By night, we zap them with killer death rays from these bright lights. These lights are 10 to 15 times brighter than some lights in New York City's parks. They are bluer than the American Medical Association and Dark Sky International recommends. We will not approve these lights. The city has so far refused to budge in replacing them. This is not just me talking. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, which is a United Nations level organization, is issued just a couple of years ago a statement, a resolution, basically saying everything I've just summarized and making these 8 recommendations, which are consistent with what I'm saying as well. So put the lights down, don't use lights that you don't need, minimize the blue light, turn them off when possible. This is another United Nations report that I was involved in as well, that also did an exhaustive search of the scientific literature on artificial light at night versus nature and came up with these recommendations, which are, again, consistent with what I've just summarized. So to sum that up, think about a wetland or a vernal pool, a swamp, a marsh. Think about all the wildlife there. Think about the frogs. Think about what would happen if you drained that pool of water. What would happen to the wildlife? We all know what would happen. They would all die. The same thing happens if we take away the darkness. If we flood that dark area with artificial light at night, all the animals suffer as well. And finally, light pollution ruins the view of the night sky. On the left, downtown Northampton, awash in light. Some of the brightest stars in the sky there, Orion, Sirius, Procyon, Canis Major, Canis Minor, are rising. You can't even see them. The Milky Way, forget about it. But just a few miles away in Whately at Smith's beautiful McLeish Field Station, much, much better. And we take our students there so that they can see the Milky Way and see the stars the way they should see. It's not pristine sky, but it's much better there. This graphic summarizes the effect on the night sky of different levels of light pollution, from best to worst, from right to left. On the right is a very pristine sky. On the left, Times Square in New York City or Las Vegas. Where is Northampton in here? It's somewhere on roughly a 5 on this scale. The Milky Way, barely visible from, if the conditions are just right, in the right place in Northampton. Otherwise, no. Here's the bad news. It's getting worse fast. This was light pollution in the United States in the 1950s, in the 70s, in the late 90s, and projected for just a couple of years from now. And you see that practically everything east of the Mississippi, it's a solid wall of light pollution. Just a few dark holes up in Maine, the Adirondacks. This report by my colleague Chris Kaiba and others from just last year studied 10 years of citizen science data where people go out and make naked eye observations, 50,000 of them, and found that light pollution is growing worse at 10% per year. We thought it was bad at 2%. Here's a close-up of Northampton. You can get this view yourself, explore it for any other part of the world at this website, lightpollutionmap.info. And here you'll see Springfield down at the bottom and Northampton up here. And it's color-coded to show light pollution. Red is the worst, orange is a little bit less bad, yellow a little less bad, and the best is this sort of dark blue here, which itself is not perfect, but obviously much better than in the city centers. The problem is it's getting worse. This was 2012. I'm going to skip ahead to 2019. There's 2019. So back to 2012. 2019. You can see that the light is creeping out into the valleys, extending further and further into the suburbs, away from the city center. It's getting harder and harder and harder to find true dark skies anywhere. With this map, we can put numbers on it. You can click on it anywhere. I clicked on Northampton, and it shows the sky brightness, the glow, the amount of glow in the night sky in a number of different ways. Let's just look at this number called ratio here, 6.56. What that means is the night sky is 6.5 times brighter than naturally dark sky. So anytime you hear somebody say, oh, it's pitch black here in Northampton, it cannot possibly be true. There is no place in Northampton that's pitch black anymore. The sky is 6 times brighter than natural. How did this happen? Well, here's how it happens. Here's my street here in Northampton on a special, special night. May this night come back. It was a night the street light was broken. And you can just see a little glow here, but it was broken in a funny way. 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off, 15 seconds on. So I took some pictures. This is 15 seconds off, and here's 15 seconds on. This is the old street light, so it was like this, it was like this. This was actually pretty good, and I knew it. I knew it was about to get bad. I knew this is the old high-pressure sodium light. I knew the city was about to replace this with the new LEDs that went in 2016. So I took the pictures to record it for posterity. You want to see what it looks like now? Get ready. That's the street light we have now. So that's the way it was, and that's the way it is. It's the same camera, it's the same lens, it's the same exposure. The only difference is the light. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about a new insidious form of light pollution that we're facing, and that is satellites, which are growing by leaps and bounds in number. Specifically, all the streaks that you see in every one of these 4 pictures are from Elon Musk's SpaceX company, Starlink, a constellation of thousands upon thousands of satellites, so-called constellation, that's a pretty name for a not very pretty thing, zooming around the Earth and getting in the way of astronomy. All right, what do we do about it? How are we going to fix light pollution? Here's Pulaski Park again. Number 1, make the light shine down only, not like this, but like that. Not like this, light shining in all directions, but like that, down only. Not lights like this on the right, but like on the left, but like this on the right. And here's a summary of terrible lights on the left and much better lights on the right. You can see the productive light is only the light that's going down. That's useful. So limit it to that light. Make sure the lights are exactly horizontal, not like this. And I'm sorry, but I've now ruined your life because you're going to go outside and you're going to see this everywhere. Not like that, but like this. You know what they were thinking when they installed the lights on the left. They were thinking, well, we want the light to go over in that direction of the parking lot. But what they weren't thinking is the light is also going up in the sky. And if you could just convince them, as we did, this is UMass 5 Bank on King Street, convince them to go out and fix it and put it horizontal, now the light goes down only. It's actually going only in useful directions, mostly in useful directions, and not up into the sky, and less into driver's eyes. This is not a new concept. Think about the last time you went to your favorite public theater. You were sitting in the audience looking at the stage, and the stage was illuminated, but the light was not shining in your eyes. That's the #1 rule of theater lighting. Don't shine the light in the audience's eyes. Shine it on the stage. And it's simple to do, but somehow we forget that when it comes to outdoor lighting. We all know that to use a flashlight properly, you shine the flashlight on the ground. You don't shine the flashlight in your own eyes, and yet we forget that when it comes to the outdoors. Number 2, minimize blue light. I would hate to live in this house on Village Hill with that light shining in my window. That is making those people sick. It's it's robbing them of the ability to sleep. It's solvable. All these cities have made a choice to limit the amount of blue light in their municipal outdoor lighting. Some of them, like Pepperell and Rockport, even using new LEDs that are the same nice amber color as the old high-pressure sodium lights we've had for the last 50 years. The technology is there. It just takes the political will to do it. You can control the lights so that they're not on all night long, even when nobody's there, like this empty parking lot here in Northampton. This is all summarized in the 5 principles of outdoor lighting. The light should have a clear purpose. It shouldn't just be for no good reason. You should target it towards the ground. Use no brighter than you absolutely need. Turn it off when you don't need it. And use warmer colors, not lots of blue. Are such lights available? Sure. Here's a bad light on Village Hill that's not well shielded. They could have used this one instead that's well shielded. They could have used lights like these in Burlington or in Mystic, Connecticut, fully shielded, down-facing. Perfect. Or these at the train station in Berlin. not like the ones at our train station in Northampton, which are much higher glare. They're down pointing, but they're still high glare. These are some great lights in downtown Northampton on Main Street. Notice that you can see the sign, Happy Valley, Pinch Pottery, perfectly well. You can see the sidewalk. You can see the entrance. What you don't see is a poke in the eye. There's no glare. More good lights right on Main Street. It's totally possible to do. Smith has done a great job. The light is in a can facing down. It's a warm color. It's not brighter than it needs to be. So that as a result, you can go to the Smith College campus and look across Paradise Pond and admire the stars rising overhead as beavers splash in the pond below. They've done a beautiful job with their new Nielsen library. The lighting designed by one of the world's best lighting designers, Suzanne Tillotson of New York City. And the lights are completely controlled for glare. They're so mellow. I invite you to come and look at the lights and see for yourself how easy it is to do a beautiful, beautiful job. These are some businesses in Northampton that were willing to turn their bad lights into good, to hire somebody to go up on a crane and adjust the lights. So thank you to Goggins, thank you to UMass 5, thank you to State Street, which let me go up on a ladder and turn their lights from glare bombs like this into much more easy on the eyes, helpful, neighbor-friendly lights like that. Same thing with Pop's Package Store. They let us go up on a ladder. There's my friend and colleague Gary Hartwell just re-aiming the light. That's all we did. And now look at that. No more poke in the eye. And you can see the storefront instead of getting blinded. There's a great light on Smith. There's a great light in my neighbor at a neighbor's yard. If you have a porch light like that, you can just stick in it a light bulb like this that faces straight down. And just from changing the light bulb, you can dramatically minimize glare and light pollution. There's a terrific light for a walkway. Instead of sinking one of those lights into your lawn that shines up into your eyes along the walkway, instead use one of these, totally shielded against glare, just mounted at about knee height, and it provides beautiful illumination for any walkway. You can find these listed on the darksky.org website. You can find them listed on this other website. I'm happy to tell you more about this if you like. You can go to Home Depot and see a whole, excuse me, a whole section at Lowe's of dark sky friendly lights. Here's the can, just buy the can and put the light in the can facing down. We have legislation pending, and I just testified on Tuesday in the State House by Zoom in favor of this legislation, along with Sierra Club Mass, Mass Audubon, the Massachusetts Medical Society, dozens of environmental organizations, Joe Comerford and Lindsay Sabadosa, more than 25 other legislators. We had a killer hearing, and I'm very hopeful that our dark sky bill will finally be voted out favorably from this committee to Ways and Means and on to the governor's desk for signing. Northampton, I'm happy to say, was one of the cities that supported this bill with this resolution. Northampton has its own lighting code. It's more than 15 years old, and it desperately needs to be updated. It is actually currently being updated with the list of features that you see here. And it's actually making the rounds in committees right now. It has some serious problems, I have to say, and I hope very much that we can fix those. But I am grateful that the city is taking it seriously. Finally, I encourage you to join the Massachusetts chapter of Dark Sky International if you're interested in finding out more. That is the go-to organization, darksky.org. We have a local organization, northamptoncitylights.org, working hard on all of these issues. You see the steering committee there. To summarize, light pollution is bad, but it's easy to fix. I'm just going to leave you with this picture of Comet Neowise, which some of you might have seen during the pandemic. It was a special visitor from the outer solar system that graced our skies at a time when people were in serious trouble. And going out at night to admire the heavens was something that many people saw as solace and a vital rejuvenation and a connection with people that we were missing during the pandemic. Unfortunately, light pollution prevented most people in America from seeing the comet. It was a bright, naked eye comet, in theory.
I want to say this is a fixable problem. This is a global problem with a local solution. We can fix it here in Northampton. Any town can fix its own lighting problem and bring back the stars in the Milky Way, support public health, support public safety, protect the animals that don't have the ability to install blackout shades in their windows, and bring back the night sky. Thank you very much.
And thank you, James. What beautiful pictures. Wow, what a wonderful presentation. Thank you, thank you so much. Is that okay? Okay. Okay, just a couple things. Remember, if you would like to ask a question, please put it into chat. We're looking forward to your questions. And I think James will be responding to them. I also wanted to let people know that we will not be having a speakers series next month. However, we do have on tap for January Vivian Weiss, who's a therapist here in Northampton, and that's going to be to be determined in terms of date and the topic. Okay, thank you very much. So then I'm going to turn it back over to James. Let's see, do we have any questions from the audience to start? Sure, go ahead.
Sure, the question was, what are the areas that need improvement in the Northampton lighting code? The lighting code was passed in 2006, which was really at the cusp of LEDs being the default light that practically everybody has. Let me be clear. I have LED lights in my house. All of our lights are LEDs. They're great at saving energy. You just have to be careful about what they are, choosing the color and brightness and so on in the direction. Anyway, the Northampton code predates LEDs, and so much has changed with the technology that is not captured by the current code. So there are lots of references to really outdated technology and thinking about the way to control glare. It has essentially failed to control glare, and just in the last 15 years, lights have popped up all over the city, including the city's own lights. Another major hole in the current version is that it does not apply explicitly to the city's own lights. The new version does say the city parking lots and street lights shall comply with the new rules. There are good rules, I hope they turn into good rules anyway, about the total amount of light that can happen in a development, the total light that's allowed per fixture, and there was no control of the color, so the color will be controlled. So all of those could be really, really important steps forward. So please contact your city councilor and say you're in favor of those improvements being made and clean up the proposed bylaw so that it is consistent with best practices. It's on the way.
Yeah, I'm curious about the factors that contribute to it being so disproportionately in the other direction. Is it ignorance? Is it concern about the security of people at night? Is it lobbying?
So why is there any resistance to fixing light pollution?
Why was it so much wrong in the first place?
Yes, it's a mix of what you said. There's a lot of so the question was why is it so bad, and what's the resistance? Sure, and the answers are the basic answers are fear of the dark and ignorance. I would say are the two main ones. Ignorance of the problems that light pollution causes. Ignorance of what we're missing. You all know what the Milky Way looks like, I assume, but when I ask my students, how many of you have never seen the Milky Way? Half the hands go up. And that is not okay with me. So I hire a school bus, I've found the money to do it, I take them to dark sky sites. We're going on Sunday night, we hope to not New Preston, to New Salem, near the Quabbin, and up high on a hill to see the Milky Way. But if you don't know what you're missing, you're much less likely to fight to bring it back. and then fear of the dark. It almost always is about safety and security. We can't turn off the lights. There will be terrible crimes committed. Society will run amok if we turn off or even dim down the lights. Look, I'm an idealist, but also a pragmatist about this. I am not saying we should turn off all the lights in Northampton. I'm just saying we should turn off the ones that we don't need, that aren't doing any good, that are doing harm, that are causing social injustice by shining into the windows of low-income housing by the Roundhouse parking lot. We should be paying attention to what the ill effects are and balancing those. And safety and security don't actually come from lighting anyway. There have been studies and studies and studies and studies showing, in fact, inconclusive about any link between crime and safety and lighting. Even on the roadways, it turns out below about 25 miles an hour, there is no proven benefit from streetlights. So we could actually do away with the vast majority of the lights we have and not suffer anything in higher crime and safety problems. But most people don't know that. Okay.
Try to come back in.
Sure.
Let's see what we have on our chat here. You want to try that one?
This one here?
Yeah.
Sure. Laura says, lots of scholarly studies show decrease in crime because of light. How do we combat that? For every one of those studies that show a decrease in crime with more light, there is another one saying no decrease in crime with more light. Crime goes up, crime goes down, crime goes up by 50%, 100%, it drops by 50%, 100%, all the time. You've probably seen 10 articles this year talking about crime going up and down. It's very difficult, in fact, to figure out what is causing all that crime. The police generally firmly believe that light at night is a serious deterrent against crime. But I already showed you my evidence that it didn't stop the crime outside my house. Cars and houses have been burglarized all over Northampton with plenty of light. There are lots of studies that show that, in fact, crime is more likely to happen when there's more light because perpetrators can see victims, or because when they're burglarizing a house, if the light's on all the time, including the porch light, then there's no change when there's a burglar there or not there. The better idea would be to have a motion sensor, so it's dark most of the time, then people can sleep when they need to sleep, the animals can be happy and healthy, and then the light comes on when somebody tries to burglarize your house, and then the neighbors notice it. That's actually a better strategy. So obviously, this is an argument we need to study with statistics. It has been studied with statistics, and there is not conclusive. If it were such a strong effect, wouldn't we have concluded easily that, in fact, more light equals less crime? And that's just not the case. So there are meta-studies done looking at the dozens and dozens of studies over decades and decades, and there's just not a conclusive link. Sure. Okay, we'll alternate. So yes, in the back. Hi. Sure. What would have the biggest bang for the buck? In other words, yeah. Let's see. Roughly half of light pollution, very roughly, comes from municipal sources like street lights and parking lot lights. The other half is from residential and commercial. It really varies by community a lot, and it's complicated to pinpoint. But let's go with that. Let's say it's half and half municipal and private. For the municipal side, well, the city can decide to spend a little bit more money when they put in street lights and put in a timer so that the light will dim after hours. And there are other cities and towns that do this. For example, Pepperell, Massachusetts dims its lights to 25% brightness late at night, and guess what? No increased incidence of crime or hazard. And in fact, the police say they can see better. And your eye can barely even detect that. Most people won't even notice it. The city could make better decisions about what kinds of light to put in for no extra cost. They could even save money by using less electricity, using cheaper lights, and still have better lights. What we need is better light, not more light. That's the bottom line. On the residential personal side, turn off the lights that you don't need. The porch light that's on all night long is actually not doing anybody any good. It might give you a sense of security, but what I'm arguing is it's likely a false sense of security. So on our personal side, we can make big differences. And then talk to businesses to try and convince them to do that too. Let me take another one from Zoom, and then I'll turn to you. Is that okay? All right. Here's a question. In addition to the impact of light pole design and angle, have you researched streetlights that can be retrofitted with sensor technology to collect pollution-related data such as air quality and traffic congestion? I have not, but I will say that this touches on the general concept of smart cities and smart lighting, where we can take advantage of municipal internet to share data among different networks. There are cities, including here in the United States, but especially in Northern Europe and Scandinavia and Germany, where the lights are off most of the time, but the lights are sensing when a pedestrian or a bicyclist or a car approaches, and there's a wave of light that then turns on to illuminate that person's way, and then they turn off again. And that requires networking, but the networks exist, the technology is there. Cambridge, Massachusetts has a networked light system where the city engineer can pull up his cell phone and see, oh, there's a light out on this street or that street, and I know exactly where to send my crew to fix it. Or can actually dim the lights or turn them up for an emergency or whatever. That's totally possible, and I don't see any reason not to network it with the other points that you make here about pollution. All right, another question in the back.
James, I approached your talk today thinking I was going to disagree with you. But you're a really good teacher.
Oh, thank you.
And this is why, I think. I was sort of thinking, I grew up in this period where I grew up in New York and a lot of crime.
Me too.
And I thought dark streets are scary. And so I'm going to only walk down streets that are light. And so I was going to kind of give you a hard time about this. But what I've learned today is you're talking about directing light down rather than up, not necessarily reducing the amount of light that I would have as a pedestrian walking down a main street. But
That's right.
maybe the sky would not have. So
That's exactly right.
your comments today remind me that perhaps dark skies is the right way to go, and light pollution might be complicated for people.
For those of you who couldn't hear that, the comment was I'm sorry, what was your name? Jane came here expecting to disagree and to fight with me about my arguments in favor of minimizing light pollution. And she finished by saying, maybe we should really focus on dark skies and not talk about light pollution so much. In our dark sky advocacy world, and by the way, I am one of thousands and thousands of people around the world who are working on this as hard as we can. This weekend, in fact, is the International Dark Sky Association's, Dark Sky International's annual meeting, happening on a 24-hour cycle, all by Zoom, people from all continents zooming in, sharing their expertise. And we talk about exactly that issue. Well, should we call it light pollution? Should we call it dark sky? Should we avoid the word dark? Because many people associate dark with evil, scary, bad, dangerous. And many people have said, I'm not even going to renew my membership until you change your name from dark sky. So we don't have a unanimous opinion about exactly what we should call it. It's a little bit like talking about, well, should we call it climate change, or should we call it global warming? And one might be seen as politically fraught while the other isn't. It really depends. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. But thank you for coming and for coming with an open mind. And you're right. We're not the dark sky. We're not the Dark Ground Association. We are the Dark Sky Association. Sure. Which one here? This. We just did that one. Yep. All right. Marcy Linker. Hi, Marcy. Asks, is there a good article or handout that is available to demonstrate why LEDs over 3,000 are less healthy as compared to 3,000? I live in a co-housing community where neighbors are starting to use the bright 5,000K in their porch lights and front windows. Yes, Marcy, go to darksky.org and you will see direct links there to many research areas specifically about that. And I would recommend especially that you go to the Flagstaff Dark Skies Alliance website, and they have assembled a tremendous amount of information there about different colors of lights and what their relative effects are. There's lots of research in all areas that I've touched on today. There's no question that 5,000 is much worse for the sky glow. The human health folks would say it's worse. Animal folks would say it's worse. So you will have no trouble finding that, but if you do have trouble, Marcy, just let me know. Another question here in the front.
When you're focusing the bulb and you're looking at the number of lumens that it gives off, is that directly related to blue light or?
The question was, what's the relationship of lumens to color? They're totally separate. They're two different things. Lumens is just the brightness. When you buy a light bulb, like this one here, it will have both of those relevant numbers on it. This one says it's 500 lumens. That's the brightness. This is appropriate for a porch light, in my view, 500 lumens. Start with that. Don't start brighter than that. But the color is listed here as, let's see, there should be a little, this is a special one. It's 2700 Kelvin when it's at the brightest. But if you put it on a dimmer, it actually changes color. It changes from 2700 down to 2200. It gets sort of mellower and redder as it gets dimmer. So here, the color and the brightness are linked through special technology of this particular bulb, which is a Philips so-called warm glow bulb. But otherwise, they're separate. Lumens is just brightness, and kelvins is just the color.
So Kelvin is what, where it is on the red scale?
Correct, where it is on the red or blue scale. The higher the number, the bluer it is. So for an outdoor light, my recommendation, don't go above 2700 Kelvin. And then I'm going to go to another question from here, if there is one. We've done.
I think we've done this, so why don't you continue with
Recently, I heard that replacing outside lights with yellow ones helps. Comment? Yes, yellow is certainly better than blue, and most insects are less attracted. We all know about bug lights, right? Those are yellowish lights. That's because most bugs are paying less attention to yellow light. They're paying more attention to blue and ultraviolet light. The bugs that circle around street lights are attracted mostly by the blue end of the spectrum. However, even yellow light can be bad for some species. In fact, yellow light is worse for the fireflies. So if you want to cover all species and human health and the night sky, the best answer is no light at all. But if you're going to have a light, make sure it's a light in a can facing down, not too bright, and on the yellow end rather than the blue end. All right, another question here. Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could weigh in on permanent daylight savings time. Maybe recommend a specific household LED dimmable bulb.
Sure. Yes, and the question was, can I make a comment about daylight saving time? And it was that, as in, what are the effects of it?
No, the move to make it permanent.
Oh, the move to make it permanent. Okay. If there is no real benefit to daylight saving time, it's largely a fiction. It has a long and tortured history that it was intended to save energy during wartime. But it's actually never been proven to save the energy that it was intended. We have the same amount of light no matter whether we call it 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. The sun is going to rise and set at the same time it always did. And the economic benefits have just not ever accrued the way it was intended. What it does do is raise our crash rates on our highways because people are suddenly short on sleep, and that makes the highways more dangerous. It affects our circadian rhythms negatively, which affects our health. So I haven't seen the numbers, but it's probably a pretty hefty price tag actually on public health that daylight saving time brings. The best thing would be to abolish it completely and just go to standard time. That's the time we're about to go into. We're in daylight time now. That's false time. We should actually go to regular time. That's what our bodies are made for. Our bodies are made to get up when it's daylight and go to bed when it's dark. And daylight saving time shifts that wrong by another hour. And then would I recommend a particular light bulb? Yes. Again, if it's an outdoor light, use one like this that is directional. This is not a regular shaped light bulb. So if I put this in my fixture on my porch, if it's the right fixture that's facing down, then the light is going to face down only. This is exactly what I use in my porch, and it is dimmable, and it starts off a warm color, 2700K, and then it gets even less blue as I dim it down. So I recommend that. For inside your house, LEDs are fine. Just make sure they're not bluer also than 2700K. We probably already, I'm sure if I go into your house, I won't see naked light bulbs everywhere. They're all shielded by these things called lampshades, right? We use lampshades in our houses. Why don't we do that outdoors as well? And above all, turn the lights off when they're not needed. And porch lights should just be off unless you've actually got somebody going up and down the stairs. Yes, thanks for the question. Devin. Oh, another. Is there another one online? Sorry, let me take Devin. Oh, sorry, Devin. We did that one. Yep. Okay, from Dale Melcher. If there is a street light on our corner that is an offender, can we petition the city to put up a shield? Yes, you can. And they are likely, in fact, to respond. There is a form on the city, Northampton City's website, specifically for getting a street light changed. It's called a street light modification request. Just try Googling that. Search for that on the Northampton City website, and if you can't find it, let me know. There are a couple of different ways that the city might respond. One hopes that they'll come out and measure it, agree that it's a problem, and fix it. And the way they fix it, there are a couple of different avenues, and I hope it'll be successful. It has been an uphill battle, I will say that. Devin.
I'd love for you to take a bow over how many lights you yourself have personally replaced. Myself more than a decade ago when you replaced my porch light.
Thank you, Devin. Devin, I would say it's in the thousands of dollars that I've that just paid out of pocket to get lights myself and go to my neighbors and say, would you allow me to just do this experiment and, you know, swap out your light bulb for this one, and if you don't like it, just give it back. And so bit by bit, one light bulb at a time. It's like Johnny Appleseed, right? It's not a very efficient way, but I can't help it. Thanks, Devin. Yes. Oh, maybe that's it. I think I should take a bow. I'll tell you what. We'll take one more question from Naomi, and then we'll call it time. And if you have more questions, please come up. Yes, you can find my. Let's see. I think I can pull this up again and go to. No, I don't have it on here. Sorry. You just find me at Smith College. Just look up Smith College Astronomy, and you'll find my email. Or look up, better yet, Northampton City Lights. Go there, northamptoncitylights.org. You send a message to me, and I'll get it from there. northamptoncitylights.org. So thank you very much. You've been a great audience.
Home that they wanted you to hold up this light.
Oh.
I didn't get to see it.
All right. You should be able to see it here. Yes, I'm holding up the light bulb that I was recommending, and I'll hold up the package for it so you can see what it is. You can order these online. I order them online. Philips 500 lumen warm glow is the technology that the name they use for their technology that changes color to a redder color as it dims. All right, thanks everybody.